In this video, we will be answering the question on the screen from the 2022 Ordinary Level Maths exam, paper 1. If you are looking for any other questions from this paper, there will be a link in the description to a playlist that will have them all. This is question 9, another one of the long ones made up of lots of different parts. You're going to see some graphs like the one here. We're going to get information from it, play with information on it. There's also some percentage questions, some distance and time questions. I have to say, all the questions in this look quite simple, the sort of thing you might see on a Junior Cert exam, but it might be the hardest question in the exam so far, in my opinion, because they're all really tricky questions. It's especially hard to teach, but I'll do my best. I'll certainly show you all the answers and I'll do my best to explain it, any little parts. But understand, it is a hard one to teach. It's a lot of problem solving, really. Okay, so for part A, they give us this graph. It's a story about a car devaluing, is that the word? Going down, depreciation, going down in value every year. And this is roughly the graph. Starts at 30,000, and it goes down 24, about 19, something like that. And they just ask you, look at the graph and get the values for V0. Little bit tricky, that. Just the fact, what does V0 mean? It just means the value. V is for value, this function. This line here is the V line. And 0 is at time 0. I'll put in a 0 here. At time 0. So we just look at the 0 line, zero time, and it hits at 30,000. So the answer for V0 is 30,000. V1, the second part, again, we go to the line, it looks like it's at 24,000. So for part 2, they ask us to confirm that the value is dropped by 20%. So 20% down from 30. So it's a percentage question. We want to find out, there's a couple of ways. We could get the percentage 24 out of 30, or 24,000 out of 30,000, and that's going to give us 80%. 0.8 is the same as 80%. So if it's at 80 now, it must have dropped 20%. That's one way. The other way would be to just find the difference here. That's 6,000. Divide that by the first number, which is 30,000. You could go ahead and put all the zeros in here if you want. They're just going to cancel out. So I'll put them back in and I'll cancel. That's why I'm taking a shortcut there. 6 divided by 30, again a calculator will come out as 0.2, which is just the same as, that's how we write 20%. That is 20%. So yeah, it's dropped 20%. Either of these ways, you won't want to leave your, I guess if you left 80% there, the examiner will probably give you full marks in this question, because that shows that it dropped 20%. I'd say, write in English, if this is 80, therefore it dropped 20, something like that. Okay, so that's part 2. Okay, B part 1, I think is probably the hardest question, hardest single question I've seen in this exam, even though I can write the answer out just instantly. And so could if you're a really good student, every teacher basically could write the answer to this instantly, no work. But still, I think it's probably the hardest question. They want you to write VT, the formula for this line here. They often give you this at the start of a question and get you to find phi0 and phi1. This time they've asked us, what's the actual function? So you have to really understand how functions work. There's a couple of ways to look at this. First of all, let me show you the slow way that you could do it, and at the end I'll just show you the quick way I would have done it in my head. The slow way, I would have looked at this and gone, well, it starts at 30,000, then it drops 20%. We know that's 24 already. It drops 20%, so we could work that out. We could work out 20% of this is probably going to be like 4,500 or something. With the power of editing, I've grabbed the calculator. It would drop 4.8 thousand, which would get us to 19.2. Next number, 19.2. Again, we could find 20%. I'm using a little shortcut here. That gets us to 15.36. And this would stay going on down. We really only need these first two numbers, actually. What I want to show you is this is a series. This is a geometric series. Something's multiplying it every time. I kept saying 20%, but what I was typing on my calculator was 80%. This is 80% of this guy. Sorry, I'm getting more to the shortcut I would have used. First, let's do it slowly. This is a series, a geometric series. Define the formula for a geometric series. Tn is equal to A or N. A is just the first term, 30. Let me put in 30,000 this time. Or is the ratio, this guy divided by this guy, or this divided by this, or this divided by this. In fact, doing a couple of them will test that we are doing a geometric series. Divide that by that, you will find 0.8. And n, well, n is just t. We wanted it at the end. We wanted a variable. They didn't give us a number for this, so they wanted a variable. So that's the answer there, 30,000 multiplied by 0.8 to the power of t. So how would I have done it quickly? I would have just wrote this out, because I knew if it's dropping 20%, therefore it's being multiplied by 80%, and I knew it was happening every year. I knew it was a geometric term. I would have just quickly wrote this. I guess this would be a good way to think about it. But this is one of the questions, and there's a few in this question. One of the parts, and there's a few in this question, that's just really difficult that I don't expect every student to get. So for part 2 of B, they say use this information or otherwise, and I'll explain what the otherwise could have been, to find the car's value after 4 years, so V4. Well, if you'd have got this formula, we just put 4 in here. So we just get 30,000 multiplied by 0.8 to the power of 4. Put all that into a calculator, and with a bit more editing, we would get 12,288. So how would you do this without otherwise? So they say use this or otherwise, but remember, lots of students wouldn't have had this answer from the last part. So there had to have been an otherwise. An otherwise would have been a couple of ones. Guess. Just look at the graph, it looks about 12,000. Put in 12,000, you're getting yourself at a 10th mark. Not good enough though, for full marks. Another otherwise would have been to notice this series. They said 20% every time. Well, you could just work it out slowly. 20% of 30 is 6, take 6 away. 20% of 24 is 4.8, take that away. 20% of this would be 3,840, I think. Take that away, we get this. 20% of this would be about 3,000, take that away. We would have got, no matter how you did it, 12.288. Just do it slowly, carefully. That's why they asked us after 4 years instead of after 20 years. 20 years, very easy, calculator could do it. But if you were to do it really slowly and painfully, it would have been difficult. So they gave you a way out of that question. Okay, on to the next part, part C, part 1. They asked us to draw something on this graph here. You should have a better drawing than me. I've just put this up on the board. In your exam, it'll be on a piece of paper. You'll have a ruler, you'll have a pencil. Be careful. And they ask you to, let me read it carefully here. Draw a line in the diagram above, passing through the first 2 points on the graph. That's a T0 and a T1. This point, let me make the points a lot bigger. These 2 points here. That's all. They want you to draw a straight line through it. Make sure, continue the line until it reaches the horizontal axis. This axis down here. So again, you should have a ruler. So it should be a lot neater than that. I looked up the answer. I know I should have hit the T equals 5. So I've just made sure. But it looks roughly straight like that. That's all. That's part 1. That's what you would have had to do. Part 2. They simply ask you to, hence or otherwise, estimate T, the age of Brian's car, when it would be worth 0. So they're asking you to realise what this means here. First of all, the line was a linear price drop. Instead of the price dropping 20% every year, it was dropping $6,000 every year, a set amount. The first year was 20%, yes, but every other year was 6,000, 6,000, 6,000, 6,000. That looks like a straight line. This graph, everything wasn't dropping 6,000. It was 6,000, then 5, then 4, then 3, and we get this curve here. Okay, so estimate after how much time his car is worth 0. 1 year his car is worth 30,000. Let's say 3 years it's worth about 18. 4 years 12. 0 years 30. 1 year 24. 2 years 18. 3 years 12. 4 years 6. 5 years 0. Now if your t equals 5, if your drawing misses the 5, say you hit 4.5, 5.5, that's okay. They don't care about that. All they care about is you use the straight line, and you told them the number. Let me draw in a bad line. Once you tell them the number where your line hits, they don't care about the right answer. They care about your answer. Now, if your line looked like this, you're going to lose marks for part 1. For part 2, if you tell them your answer is 12, you're going to get full marks for that. Even though it's a terrible line, you're going to lose marks in part 1, not in part 2. Okay, on to part D. We have a whole new car. We have a new person, Eva. She buys a car, and the price of the car, the value of the car, that when she goes into the shop, it's written on the windscreen, is 19,445. Now they tell us that she pays 30%, she pays monthly payments, at the end she pays a lump sum. How much will the car cost her? Because she's not going to pay this. She's going to pay more than this, because if she first day if she had cash in her pocket, she would have paid this, but she didn't. She only had 30% of the money, and she promised later to pay more and more. So she's going to end up paying more. Let's figure out how much. And I'll show you what I would be doing in this question, how I would think it through. I would look for all the amounts of money she paid. So that's how much the car costs. Forget about that for a moment. We'll use that again in a minute, I think. What did she pay? She paid 30%. So let's see. She paid 30% of this price. So 30% multiplied by 19,445. Put that into a calculator. I think it is 7,389. My notes are a bit all over the place. So she paid this. She paid 7,300. What else did she pay? She paid €206.97 every month for 3 years. So every month multiplied by 12 for 3 years, multiplied by another 3. Put all of that in and you get a very similar number, 7,450.92. And that's not all she paid though. She also paid more. She paid this is easy. She paid a lumps. So okay, so one of these numbers is wrong. So a bit of editing. I've checked my notes. This number here is wrong. It should have been 5,000. Let's see, it should be 5,833.50. The final number, the one I had up there, is the lump sum she paid, 7,389. This is how much she paid for the car. Add all them together and we will get 20,673.42 cents. 42, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that's the real price you paid, not the 19,500, the 20,700 we'll call it. Okay, continuing the theme, part E here, continuing the theme of easy looking questions that are just really hard. We're going to figure out distance and time this question. So Eva, she drives home from the garage 12 kilometers. That the distance, she usually goes 60 kilometers per hour, but today there's road works and she's only going to go 40 kilometers per hour. You don't need to put in units, by the way, in maths exams, but they sometimes help. Always a good idea. If you're doing science, you do need them, so might as well put them in all the time. Okay, so they asked us to work out the percentage increase in the time it takes Eva to drive home. Alright, I've said a couple of times, these questions look easy, they look like something to be on a Junior Cert. The big difference is on a Junior Cert question, They'd give you the same question and they'd ask you, if you were driving 60 kilometers, how long would it take to go 12 kilometers? And then next part, they'd ask you, if you were driving 40, how long would it take? Next part, they'd ask you, what's the difference of those two numbers? Next part, they'd ask, find the percentage of this number and that number. This is an identical question you would see on a Junior Cert, except in a Junior Cert, they'd split it up into 4 parts. So we're going to have to split it up in our head. So they ask us to work out the percentage increase in the time it takes. So we have to work out percentage last. Increase of the time. So we have to work out the time it takes her. Again, that'll be second to last. So the first thing we need to work out is how long does it take her to go 12 kilometers going 60 kilometers an hour. So there's a few ways. Again, this is a Junior Cert sort of question. So a lot of you will be better at this than me. I've not taught this in many years. So I'll show you how I would do this question, probably still now. I think, because it's very easy to mix up different directions. I wouldn't write all this down, but it's how I would think about it. I would think it takes 60, I would think you go 60 kilometers in 1 hour. How much time would it take to go 12 kilometers? So I write 12 kilometers here, and this is honestly how I think about it in my head. 60 has to get to 12 somehow. Now that's an easy one, it's just divide by 5. Or how about we say, instead of divide by 5, we multiply by 0.2. So how do we get from 60 to 12? Well, you could just divide it in, or divide this into this, and you get 0.2. That's what must have multiplied 60 to get to 12. Well, the same thing must have to multiply this 1 then on this side, because we always have to be fair and balanced. 1 multiplied by 0.2 is 0.2. And that's in hours. So that's how long it would take you to go 12 kilometers in 60 miles an hour. Honestly, if you don't like how I do it, quick search online, how do I get time from distance? Go back to your Junior Cert books. Honestly, hopefully you'll figure it out. It's there's plenty of stuff online. I don't think I teach it the best. Okay, so next, if you're going 40 kilometers an hour, and again you're going 1 hour, I do it the same way. 40 kilometers, have to go 12. What's this number? I would go 12 divided by 40, and I put that into a calculator. Let's do it right here. 12 divided by 40, and that would get you 3 over 10. So that's what has to multiply by 40 to get to 12. So we also must be fair and balanced to multiply it by the 1. Obviously 1 multiplied by anything is just the same thing. 3 over 10 hours. Instead of 3 over 10, we'd write 0.3. Okay, so that's how long it would take going 60 kilometers an hour. How long it would take going 40 kilometers an hour. And they ask us to find the percentage difference. Well, the difference between 0.3 and 0.2 is 0.1. And its percentage difference, like the increase, how much longer it took her to go home. So longer than her original one. So longer than this. So what's the percentage difference between 0.1 and 0.2? Well, we just get the percentage of the two of them, and your calculator will tell you 0.5, which is the same as 50%. Really weird question, so simple, I find it hard to teach it, but I understand so many students have trouble stepping through all those parts. They get panicked, they just panic. One bit of advice I'd give you in these questions, and many others like it, is think of the real story. Think of her, think of the speed she's going. She used to go 60 kilometers an hour, she now is going 40 kilometers an hour. She's going slower. Roadworks slowed her down. So make sure the time you get represents that. She's going slower. It takes her longer to get home. If you're going slower, it takes longer to go home. This number has to be bigger than this one. So many students would get a smaller number here and then just not think about it. And then on their percentages, they'd end up with, I guess, like 100% or 200%, and they'd go, okay, that must be it. And they just move on. Think about the real life thing. How much slower is she going? Just she's going 0.1. It took her 0.1 hours. You could change this into minutes if you want. Percentages at the end. Boom. 0.1 divided by that. Anyway, I've talked long enough in this question. I'll leave it there. If you have any follow-up questions for this, maybe I'm not the best person to ask, but I will do my best to answer you. Put your comments below the video. Thanks for watching and have a great day.